It is 7:01 p.m. We'll give everybody just a couple more minutes to get in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. It is 7:01 p.m. We'll give everybody just a couple more minutes to get in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Jose, since Chin can't make it tonight, I'm making you co-host so you can help moderate if you don't
Okay,
mind.
problem.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator, and this is our third Wednesday of the month, continuing education, CERT, continuing education training. Tonight's topic is tracking the incident from start to finish. What we like to do with these trainings every month is introduce beginning, intermediate, and advanced topics. The beginning topics are a refresh of what you've learned from in the basic community emergency response team training. These trainings, all of our trainings are open to everybody. If you've taken the CERT training or not, whether you're from LA City or from other parts of the world, these trainings are open to everybody. But we cater the beginning topics to really refresh what the basic training goes over. With the intermediate topics, such as tonight's, we like to take the next step from the basic training and introduce a few new topics, more advanced, advanced is the wrong word, more leveling up the basic skills. And then the advanced topics takes it really to the next level where we have topics that are often introduced from some of the more advanced incident command system classes, such as ICS 300 and 400 that really go over the big picture and how CERT integrates at the ground level. Something that a lot of our members really don't get to see unless you're maybe on the emergency management side of things. But certainly, if you've just taken the training and you've freshly got your backpack and vest, then you're not expected to know those big picture things. This intermediate topic, really tracking the incident, is leads into that. Um, a lot of times we see what's in front of us and work on what's in front of us and then move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we really don't get the opportunity to see how it all ties together and what the staging area or the emergency management department or the fire department does, wrapping those incidents up and or having to complete them on our behalf because we don't have the skills, resources, or experience to handle those kinds of things. For those of you who don't know, the Community Emergency Response Team training's primary mission really is um, for us as volunteers that during a regional disaster, we understand that local professional first responders or resources are going to be extremely busy. When I say resources, I mean people, equipment, teams. A resource can be anything, but oftentimes when we talk about resources, it's either the individual personnel or the personnel plus equipment that act as a team, and that is a resource, an individual resource that is often deployed out. They're going to be busy, be it an earthquake, hurricane, We just heard that it is now hurricane season in Florida, and for some reason they get hurricanes every year. And every year, those first responders have to deal with what happens when a hot, um, windy, rainy cyclone decides to make landfall onto a population center and disrupts our way of living when we don't have a hurricane currently on top of us, be it that it's property damage or injuries or worse, people trapped, lost, missing, or possibly deceased. And when those disasters happen, it really is all hands on deck. You're going to have the professionals who are gearing up for it and preparing for it, um, dealing with a disaster. You're going to have them dealing with their normal everyday disasters, which are, minor, major injuries, car crashes, fires, house fires, heart attacks, things like that. And then you're going to have the community's response as well. And that's really where we come in. The CERT basic training teaches community members to prepare for a disaster, for themselves, for their families, teaches us the basics on how to safely help our neighbors. And while we're not firefighters, we're not professionals, we're not experienced experts at it, there's a lot of things we can do to mitigate minor problems that can quickly become medical or otherwise major emergencies for the people that they afflict. And if we can stop them from becoming major emergencies, we can stop that person from having to take a professional resource, or take a room in an ER, or otherwise be in a bed at a hospital that can then service other community members who really do need it. And that's really what the beauty of the CERT program is making sure that, or helping us prevent more problems. And really that frees up the professionals to deal with stuff that we can't deal with. And those things often include having additional advanced first aid, paramedic skills, and the equipment that they have. This is equipment that's extremely expensive, and there's no way that we as individuals could possibly have it. Talking about fire engines, fire trucks, heavy lifting equipment, heavy rescue, all the medications that a paramedic unit can bring to bear on someone who's having, say, a heart attack in the field and get them up and running and stabilized so they could take them to the hospital where they can be taken care of and recover from that emergency. And the CERT basic training really is, it was created here in Los Angeles by the fire department, by LA City Fire, and it's based upon the fire department's basic training. A lot of what we learn in the basic community emergency response team training is exactly what the firefighters have learned. Now they get to go above and beyond the basics, but a lot of it was written by the fire department based upon their training. It teaches us how to assess and size up a situation before we enter. We see time and time again where not just rushing in leads to the rescuer becoming a victim of the incident because they didn't assess to make sure it was safe to enter and they did something that was unsafe, and now they become part of the problem. Teaches us to recognize the dangers, be it from power lines, um, buildings that are in the process of collapsing but have not completed collapsing, um, risks such as there's a weird odor or this cloud of funky looking gas, and a bunch of bodies around it. That's not something that we want to run into, but at the same time, we want to help people and rescuers who do not take the time to assess run into that cloud and end up being on the ground next to the victims that they were trying to rescue. The CERT training can really be described as a toolkit of skills. You have basic emergency first aid or disaster first aid, medical triage, how to put out a fire, be it with a fire extinguisher, with a water tank, or a fire hose, searching a building for survivors, stabilizing and lifting off heavy objects off of the trapped survivor. That's lifting cribbing, and then how to remove somebody from an incident and then get them to safety, as well as how to mark a building, identifying that it has been searched. So that when the professionals do arrive, maybe days later, maybe hours later, but sometimes days later, they already know that this building has been searched and they may do another search of it, but it won't be as thorough as if the building had not been searched and properly marked. And then how teams operate under the incident command system. And that really becomes a bigger deal when you're dealing with the fire department, with the professionals who are all already operating under the incident command system. Us knowing how to slot into that and how that works allows us to more seamlessly become resources for them to utilize if they need additional manpower or additional support at the ground level. Um, so the CERT training really it's designed to be generic. It's designed to um, be taught across the United States. It's designed to be taught, and it has been taught across the world. We oftentimes have people attend these trainings that are coming from other countries, Brazil, Chile, um, and so that generalization helps it be almost universal in its ability to be taught without much changing of the basic and the core teachings of it. But it does need to be customized. You can't take something that is generic and universal and have it apply in Florida the same as it does in California. We don't have hurricanes in California. And Florida hopefully doesn't have earthquakes to the at least to the degree that we do in California. And they're really two different geographic areas, and the risks and the dangers and the threats to the community are different. And so you need to teach it to the relevance of the local community and the local region. So again, why do we customize it? Um, and we'll go over that as I show the different forms, but it really is, they say that when you teach CERT, you can add to it, but you can't subtract. So they've really dialed it into the bare minimum core material that everyone should learn. And that way, if you do take it in Florida or Boston or Massachusetts or Oregon, Washington, or California, or Texas, or Indiana, and then you go to another country, another state, another city, the training is the same. The customizations will be different. And so you can just slot in and come up to speed very quickly. You're speaking the same language as other CERT members are in your new community. Um, but also, when you talk to the fire department, you talk to the first responders that you're supporting, the language is the same. And there doesn't need to be a massive relearning. And this is something that Incident Command System teaches, FEMA, all the professionals now work on the same model where we're speaking the same language so that if we do mutual aid, if a fire engine from Texas shows up to help fight a wildfire in California, the language is the same. When the firefighters talk to each other, they're speaking in a way that they understand each other. And that has definitely not always been the case. There's been very many um, instances and famous instances where support from another state comes in and they do things everything different. Their equipment's different. They go to hook up a hose to a fire hydrant and they don't have the right hookups and can't actually fight the fire that they thought they were gonna work on. So it's designed to be this taught in this way, but it needs the customization added to it for the local program, for the local community, for the local region. And what we've also done is over the last 10 years of being a CERT coordinator, running drills, talking to people who have recently graduated, running these trainings, we have a lot of lessons learned. Additional ICS classes we've taken, EMT classes, first aid classes, becoming a ham radio operator, a lot of lessons learned that they don't teach you in the basic CERT curriculum that we can then apply, tweak, and help the people who are new graduates, help the people coming to training learn how to make the material make more sense and um, work and flow better. And that really is the goal is how do I take the basic training and then utilize it when there's a disaster and I'm there, how can I make it sense in my own head so that I can help my community members, my family members, my neighbors. When we have to really take a step back and look at CERT as micro versus macro or tactical versus strategy, because this is where the documentation really comes into play. A lot of the times when we graduate the CERT training, we are seeing what's in front of us. It's the micro side of things. It's what's in front of me. How do I deal with it? That single incident. But when you're at the staging area, when you're deploying out teams, when you're in a command and control instance, and you have incidents being reported to you, you have damage assessment teams, you have incident response teams out in the field, it's a different game. A game is I don't want people to take that the wrong meaning, but it's a different way of thinking than I'm dealing with the one thing that's right in front of me. The person who has a tree branch stuck in them and they are bleeding out, and I need to stop the bleeding or they will die. And then I need to move on, or I need to get this person in the hospital. I need to do something so that this person can survive. When you have multiple teams out in the field, it's how do I do the greatest good for the greatest number of people? How can I have manage my resources, my teams in the field, my personnel, my volunteers, so that they don't spend all their time on one person who they may or may not be able to save, but then they can't save anybody else. And so you can think of tactics as really being one thing at a time and strategy being how to manage and prioritize resources and time, because time is a resource. It's a finite resource. We don't have all the time in the world. Someone who's immediate, who's been triaged immediate, needs to go to the hospital within the next 60 minutes or they will die. And so that time is ticking down on us. And a lot of times we think as CERT volunteers, we go and discuss, okay, well, this is what I heard in training, and this is what I've seen in the class, and and no one's done anything to stop the bleeding while they're discussing this. And during our drills and during the refreshers, we see this time and time again where there is just an over discussion of it and a lack of action. And so, keeping that in mind, time is a very finite resource that needs to be managed properly. So, when you're in the field, you're that damage assessment team or that incident response team, and you're walking up on something bad. You need to ask yourself some questions. First of all, what are the immediate needs of the survivors at this incident? What do they need right now? And now means now, not what do they need in an hour or 5 hours or maybe 30 minutes, What do they need at this exact moment that I can provide to increase the survivability of this incident? So this person will be able to um, really what we're doing this for, help this survivor survive. And then what resources do we have to help them with? What equipment do we have? What tools? What supplies? Again, resources are people as well. What rescuers are here? Do we have enough rescuers to get this person out and to safety? And if it's
How
two
violent
people,
does it get with your?
I done got grease poo on my foot, hot grease on some tweaking shit.
Oh shit, you're
I
talking
got
about things
stabbed.
they're doing. All right,
Yeah, I got stabbed with a fork. I got all type of shit happen to me before.
you just need to be in this kind of chaotic relationship,
Better,
just fighting.
yeah. After you beat a bitch up, it's like y'all get a different love for each other. You ain't ever slapped your.
I apologize for that. I'm going to lock the meeting so that person can't rejoin.
Who the heck was that?
Probably a spammer. I muted them and they immediately unmuted several times. So we've had this happen in the past, so I apologize for that. Um, but going back to um, resources and rescuers, if we come upon someone who is trapped under, say, a slab of concrete, or they're trapped in their car, and there's two of us, do we have the number of rescuers, the equipment and tools to get this person out? Or do we need additional rescuers? Do we need an additional team? Do we need the professionals to come in? And so it really is, do we have what we need to get this person out, or do we report it up, stabilize the incident, and then hopefully have a team that's equipped properly to get in there and get this person out? And then when we get them out, what do we do with them? Where are we taking them? Who's going to monitor them and make sure they don't get worse? Do they need to go to the hospital? Do they need paramedics? Um, if we do need the professionals, can we call them? Do we have them available? Can we radio them? Is 911 working? Do our cell phones work? Or do we have someone maybe on radio who's at the fire station who can talk on the landline to the dispatch system? And we really we skip over that in the drills a lot because it is such a complicated question. If we get someone out and they need to go to the hospital right now, if we take them there, we take ourselves out of the field and we can't help anybody else. And very much so, oftentimes we're gone for hours because it's going to take that long to get them transferred to the hospital that's already inundated. Or can we transport them to a medical TARP and treatment center where we do have people who are able to stabilize them, and the fire department knows that we have a casualty collection point that they can pick up people and prioritize their transportation out. But at the staging area, we think on the macro side of things, the strategy side. Yes, that is the big question still. What do we do how do we get them out? But um, now we're thinking about multiple teams doing the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. The question has to always be, who can we save now with the resources that we have? It's not, I have someone in front of me and I'm going to dedicate everything, all of my time, energy, and supplies to try and save them. And even if I can't, I'm going to try that. And so this is where the command and control comes in, where the big picture has to be kept in mind. Who cannot be saved even if we have all the resources and time? And that's really it's a macabre way of thinking of it, but it's real in that we can't save everybody. We don't have infinite resources. We don't have infinite time. And we may not have communications with those that do, even if they don't. We may not have communications with the professionals, and thus we cannot save everybody. And so, over committing resources to a survivor who will not survive, it, it's a waste of resources, but it's a balancing act too. If you tell your people to leave someone to die because they cannot save them, it is demoralizing. And you do that enough times, and that the stress and trauma that that team suffers from that is lifetime. During 9/11, they had rescue dogs out there, and they kept finding victims of the incident. Um, and the dogs would get really excited that they found someone, but unfortunately, that person was not alive and could not have been saved. And the dogs started to feel that trauma and stress. And so there's actual stories where they started staging mock survivors that the dogs could find and be excited that they were actually able to find someone alive and rescue them. This is why we're here. Yeah, we're not dogs, we're humans, but that same trauma exists. And if you tell your people, leave someone to die, you can do some serious psychological damage to them. And so you have to balance it. Um, but at the same time, if you try and save people who you can't save over and over again, then you're going to miss the people that you can save. And again, that's the balancing act that happens at the staging area, at the command and control center, when you're dealing with the macro, the big picture, the strategy. How do we use our resources to save the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time? Can we transport the survivors to definitive medical care or to a treatment area? Can they find someone, a neighbor, or someone who can, a family member who can transport them so that the team can get back in the field and keep going? Do we have communications with the fire department, the EMS? Can we get the professionals to get this person off of our hands and take them to definitive care so our team can get back in the field? And then really it's how do we manage the resources that we have, and how do we maximize our resources without burning them out? I can tell you from the drills that we do, especially our larger ones that run for more than a few hours, our people, after they go out one time, they don't want to go out again. They're done. They're burned out. They okay, I spent an hour walking the neighborhood and I'm done. I need a break. And you can't really blame them. Will that change during an earthquake scenario or another disaster? Maybe, maybe not. But it's our job as command and control, being in charge, to take care of our people. How do we utilize them and break them and give them the support they need so that they can go back out and keep helping their community? Now, we have to have a reality check. It's great when we do a refresher or a drill and there's 30 CERT trained people there. The reality is, however, that you're not going to have enough people, time, equipment, or supplies to help everyone. And if you are in a small community and your team is 5 people, it's 5 people. There's probably not 25 more people showing up who don't exist. I mean, anything's possible. Certainly mutual aid does exist. But if you and your 4 other neighbors are the CERT team, that's it. That's it. Unless you can train more people up. And that should always be the goal. But volunteers come and go. People who take the CERT training are not all people who are going to be the volunteers who are part of the team. And so if you only have 5 people on your team trained to that level, um, oftentimes it will just be do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. You're going to walk the neighborhood and help the person in front of you who needs help. And there's not going to be a whole lot of strategy behind it. But if you have 30 people, you have multiple teams. This is where the documentation portion, tracking the incidents that we're going to talk about, that's where managing the resources is going to be critical. And also, people have lives. People go on vacation, people work, people go to school, people move. Not all of your team members will be there when you want them to be there. Hopefully, they'll show up a little bit later, but oftentimes you'll be the first person there and you'll be waiting for other people to show up and hoping they're going to show up. Now, the CERT forms that are used in the FEMA curriculum are loosely based on FEMA NIMS ICS forms. And I wish I had taken my own rule and not used the acronyms as much. National Incident Management System is what NIMS stands for. FEMA is Federal Emergency Management Agency, and ICS is Incident Command System. Um, Ironically, FEMA says use plain English, and they have a book that's about an inch thick, maybe an inch and a half thick on acronyms. Um, because everyone in government loves their acronyms. I personally hate it when you're talking to people and you start talking about the FEMA NIMS ICS forms, and they have no idea what you're talking about. They're just going to nod and smile because they don't want to admit they don't know what you're talking about. Same thing when you're talking about CERT. You're at a information booth and talking about CERT, and people smile, nod, and walk away. But if you talk about the community emergency response team, that's meaningful. That sounds exactly like what it is, and people might be interested in that. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency's National Incident Management System, Incident Command System forms 201 to 225, 303, and 309 are where the CERT forms are based on. And when I say based, I mean very loosely. They are not, they are, for better or for worse, dumbed down from those NIMS forms because we don't need all that information. We're not the professionals. These forms need to be easy and accessible so that someone can get the form and figure out how to use it versus the NIMS forms, the ICS forms have like for a single front 1 page form, there's usually like 3 pages of documentation that go along with it on how to use the form. But at the same time, they're designed to be generic and they're designed to apply to all possible situations. And so going back to our Valley Bureau coordinator, she stated that the forms are so generic that they're unusable. And that's kind of what the result is when you make something so generic, is that they really still need to be customized. Going back to the initial intent of CERT, how do we teach something that can be taught across the country, across the world, and apply in every circumstance? You need to customize it. And so the CERT forms 1 through 8 are designed to be used in sequence based on their numbers. So you don't have 201, 202, 214, 225, 303, 309, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Before we talk about the forms, however, we do need to talk about what is an incident. Um, and this comes up, and we do these during our drills with the intent to make you think about it. An incident, you need to ask yourself, is this an incident? Well, if you ask these questions, you can kind of suss out if it's an incident, but there's going to be some gray areas. First of all, can we do something about it? Whatever's in front of me, can we do something about it? The answer is yes, probably an incident. If the answer is no, maybe not an incident. Are there survivors who need help? If there are survivors and we can do something about it, instant. If there are survivors and there's nothing we can do about it, still an incident because we need to get additional support for them. We're not going to say, oh, we can't help this person. We're just going to walk away and that's that. Too bad for them. Or is there damage or danger that can be mitigated? And maybe that's all you can do is you have someone trapped in the car and there's wires on top of the car. It's not safe to approach the car. Can you mitigate it so that other people don't put themselves in danger trying to help, and the person in the car knows not to get out of the car, or they might get electrocuted and die? Do you vocalize that to them, tell them, talk to them, make sure that, hey, those wires on the car might be live, they're touching the ground. If you get out, you could get electrocuted. Your car appears to be safe. There's no smoke coming from it. The engine's off. Um, are you injured? No. Are you trapped? Maybe. Okay. We're going to call this in. We're going to get another team out here. We're going to get the fire department out here. But you need to stay in the vehicle because if those wires are live, you might not survive it. If you do need to get out, you can go into the whole how to jump away from an electrified vehicle thing. Um, but also, if other people want to help you and they come close, tell them to stop. And can you put up caution tape to keep people away, knowing how far away they need to be from the possible live electric lines? Um, Additional questions to ask. Do you need additional resources? If there's two of us and we can get another team here and we need five people to get someone out, we can get another team of three, then yeah, this is probably an incident. We can do something about this. We have the resources to do it. Or do we need professional responders? In the case of the electrified vehicle or the lines down, or a building on fire, you're going to need professional resources, professional responders. And that's probably an incident. Now, um, the reason is that we want to assign incident numbers to incidents so that we can reference them, we can talk about them, we can document them, we can refer back to them. If you keep talking about the car into tree at Pinehurst and Havenhurst, and you keep having to refer to that particular incident, it's much easier to refer to incident number 3 than it is to the car into tree at Pinehurst and Havenhurst. However, if something is just situational awareness, there's no injuries, no survivors, there's no damage that or danger that needs to be mitigated. A tree fell and it didn't damage anything and it's just in the road, then you don't need an incident number for that. So, um, okay. This is the interactive portion of it. Um, let's see. Go ahead and open the chat and answer, is this an incident? I should have done a survey. I forgot to do that for this one. But possible incident number 1 is a car into tree. Female 40-year-old driver is trapped in the car. There's no obvious signs of injury. The engine is off, and there's no obvious signs of danger to the survivor. Is this an incident? Go ahead and put in the chat, yes, incident, or no, not incident. A bunch of yeses, trapped, incident, yes, yes, yes. No one is saying no. Oh, there's someone saying no. Yes, survivor needs help. Yeah, this is an incident for sure. Do we have the resources to do something about this? Maybe, maybe not. Um, First of all, you're going to call this in, let staging know. We have an incident. We have someone who's in the car, they're trapped, they're not injured, um, and we need additional resources to get them out, or we're going to attempt to get them out. And that way we can start referring to incident number 1. instead of the car in the tree with the 40-year-old female driver trapped in the car with no obvious signs of injury. Yes, this is an incident. Possible incident number two. You're walking along and you smell rotten eggs. You walk up to the side of a house and you see that the gas meter dial is spinning fast. You're able to shut off the gas at the meter and the smell starts to dissipate. Is this an incident? Yes or no? Ooh, all right. We got some people saying yes. We have some people saying no. Let me ask you this question. Is there anything else that needs to be done here? Um, if you can make something that is a potential problem no longer be a problem, then it's potentially not an incident. But I'll give you that this is a little bit of a wobbler. If you shut off the gas, and let's say this is an earthquake scenario, you can't call the utility company, you can't call the gas company, you can't call the fire department because they're busy. You can try for sure. I can tell you that the gas company is going to be very busy after an earthquake, and they're probably not going to get out there fast. Um, but you managed to shut off the gas, and you can tell that the smell is starting to dissipate. I would say this is situational awareness. Call, let them know that you've done this. Certainly call before you walk up to the meter, as soon as you smell the gas. And let staging know that you have a possible gas leak and that you're going to attempt to shut it off. And then let them know that you shut it off. If they want to create an incident report on this, okay, cool. It should be documented for sure. Um, but do you need to send another team out hereafter? I would say no. There's nothing more that needs to be done here. The team can move on and deal with the next incident. But also check to make sure there's no one trapped inside. Try and look in the windows, see if you see anybody. Certainly, if you can smell the gas on the outside of the building, there's a potential that this is actually something bigger, and this could result in an incident where you have someone trapped inside unconscious. Um, but this was designed to get you to start to think a little bit. So possible incident number three. You're walking along and you see a help sign in the front window. You walk up, knock on the door, there's no answer. You call out. Uh, First responders, is anyone in there? Anybody need help? Call out. No response. You look in the windows, you can't see anything. There's no signs of distress, no signals, no one blowing a whistle, no one screaming for help. Is this an incident? Yes or no? Oh, that was a good point. Someone said for the gas leak, if you're checking the homeowner, don't ring the doorbell. And that's a very good point. The doorbell generally is electrical, and it shorts or it basically connects two live wires together. One, if the power's out, doorbell might not work. But two, if the doorbell does work, it might actually set off a spark and cause an explosion with a gas leak. So knock on the door, don't ring the doorbell. But in terms of the help sign, yeah, I'm gonna say this is a yes, this is an incident. We're certainly gonna document it. We're gonna call staging, let them know, because just because we don't see anybody in there doesn't mean they're not in there. It certainly warrants another look, another team to go check it out with more resources. Would I fixate on this? The damage assessment team is trying to make a quick assessment of the community. They're looking for problems. You have a help sign. You can't find anybody that needs help, immediate help. So I would say this warrants another team, but I would move on. I would call this in as an incident, and then hopefully another team with more resources can follow up. And hopefully it turns out to be nothing, but it certainly could be something. So definitely an incident. Possible incident number four. You have a 15-year-old female trip and fall on the sidewalk, possible broken ankle, and she's unable to walk home. Is this an incident? Yes or no? Yeah, I would say this one's pretty cut and dry. There's someone that needs help. Can you do something about it? Yeah, probably. Um, what you're going to do about it, that remains to be seen. Does the person need to go to the hospital, or are you going to somehow transport them? You have the consideration that this is a minor, a someone who's under 18. And so if you're going to leave them with a neighbor, there's certainly considerations you need to make here. You don't want to find out that you left a 15-year-old girl with the neighborhood creep. Um, but definitely an incident for sure. Possible incident number five. You have a unresponsive 35-year-old male found on the sidewalk. No signs of trauma, no signs of life. You attempt to open the airway. You attempt to revive them. No response to the attempts to revive. No positive signs that you're able to get them to start breathing or have a heartbeat. No witnesses. Is this an incident? Yes or no?
Yes.
I love doing this one. Um, can you do something about this? Someone dead. Don't know why. Um, certainly you want to document this. Certainly you call this into staging. Um, and I would say that you can argue successfully either direction that this is an incident or not an incident. But I want you to think about this. Does another team need to show up here? Um, are you going to take them anywhere? You don't know why this person died. A lot of times, unfortunately, people take advantage of disasters to deal with a vengeance that they want to blame on the disaster instead of on themselves and avoid suspicion. This the police need to deal with this. So certainly
I
you're
was
going
going
to
to say,
report
I
this.
was going to say, you have to document it, tag him that he's dead, and report it in definitely because the police have to look into it because you don't know what caused him to die.
Yeah, absolutely. But is this an incident? I would argue no, but I could hear the argument for yes. The reason why, the justification I say no is that you're not going to send another team out to deal with this. You're pretty much going to leave them in place. Um, I I don't know if I'd cover the body. Yeah, you don't want a dead body out there, but what do you have to cover them with? Do you have a space blanket that you're going to use? Maybe. Um, this is
This
an
could be
unfortunate.
a crime scene too.
Yeah. And if you cover
So
the
you have to,
body, are you
yeah,
tampering with
you
it? Are you
can't
going to
touch it.
destroy evidence? Probably maybe caution tape it off. That's the best thing you can do.
Yep.
Possible incident number six. Smoke is visible from a block away. As you get closer, you discover fully engulfed single family home. You call out, there's no survivors at home. You talk to the neighbors and they say that the residents are on vacation. This an instant? Yes or no? Can you do something about this? If it's fully engulfed, no, you're not a firefighter. You don't have fire engines. You don't have multiple fire engines. This is going to take multiple engines, probably trucks, a lot of water to put this thing out. Um, but here's the catch. If if the neighbors the neighbors are going to want you to do something because a fully engulfed home could easily spread to the surrounding homes. Um, yes, this is an incident because you need the professionals to deal with this. Somebody needs to do something about this. You're going to call this in. You want to track it. You want an incident because um, you need to report this up to the fire department. You need the professionals to do something about it. Now, you're probably going to want to talk to the neighbors if they have water. Um, in their hose water pressure, I would say they need to start again fully engulfed. Their hose is not going to put out this fire. However, they can start watering down their own places and be prepared to evacuate in case the fire does spread. But they can at least water down their places. You might mitigate the fire from spreading to their place. Um, Certainly, if it's fully engulfed, you're not going to walk up and try and turn off the gas. Um, you're not going to get too close to this. But this is certainly an incident. This needs to be dealt with by the professionals. And this needs to be escalated very quickly. Chances are, fully engulfed home, everyone nearby is going to see it, and the fire department will be on their way, hopefully, to do something about it if they can, if they have the resources. Again, this is not a single engine that's going to take care of this fully engulfed home. Possible incident number 7, small brush on fire. You're able to put it out with a hose. Fire appears to be fully out. You've saturated this bush, and there's no other fires nearby that are going to relight it. Um, is this an incident? You're certainly going to call it in. Someone in the comments says it needs to be overhauled, and I would argue that yes, you're right. We are not firefighters. We don't know how to make sure this thing is completely out. Um, you're definitely going to call this in, report this, but you did something about it and you've mitigated it. Is this an incident? Is another team going to come out and check it? Um, I would argue no. I would say this is not an incident, but that staging would make that call. Because maybe yes, they do want to send another team out there. But good job, you've mitigated this, you've put it out, and if you can do something to make something not an incident, that's a great use of your time and energy and resources. Certainly, if you let the fire burn and grow, then it definitely becomes an incident. Then suddenly that house is on fire, fully engulfed. Possible incident number 8. Medium-sized tree down across a sidewall. It's blocking a parking space. I'm sorry, medium-sized tree down across a sidewalk, blocking a parking space. No damage, no injuries, it hasn't hit a building. There's no one trapped underneath it. It's not blocking the street. Is this an incident? Yes or no? Yeah, this is situational awareness. This is, hey, staging, and this is only if there's no one talking on the radio. You don't have other things being reported in. This is, hey, staging, we're at this location. We have a tree down, just FYI. No damage, no injuries. It's not blocking the street. No need to put up caution tape or anything, or we put up caution tape, whatever. We don't need an incident number for this. If the radio is going crazy, lots of incidents getting reported in, staging's dealing with all sorts of this. Do you even need to report this? Document it, so you can give it later. But no, I wouldn't even radio this in if the the radio is going crazy and you don't have um the bandwidth on the radio to deal with it.
Crazy.
Good point. Um, Someone says in the comments, always document. Yes, always document. Even if it's just situational awareness, you can come across something, document it. Because what if you did find somebody was trapped underneath there, or somebody found somebody was trapped underneath it? Why didn't you call this in? Well, we documented that we looked, we checked, we didn't see anybody, couldn't find anybody. We determined it was situational awareness. We reported it over the radio, and that's the best that we were able to do with our time, energy, and resources. Possible incident number 9, down power lines on a car. No occupants, no obvious signs of damage. There's no one at risk. Is this an incident? Do you need another team to come out here and put themselves at risk? Do you need the professionals to come out to rescue someone? I'm going to say this is another wobbler here, but I would argue no, because there's nothing for another team to do. Again, they come out and try and deal with the power lines. The electric company or the fire department comes out and these lines are live. they put themselves at risk. So I would say you're going to call this in, report it. You're going to try and mitigate it, put up caution tape, keep people away from it. But don't spend too much time trying to overthink this one. This is not an incident. This is n nothing that you can do to make this better or worse or save anybody here. Okay, now we're getting into the fun part, the forums. Um, that was a great job. Most of you got the tricky questions right or got trapped up. And I really wanted you to think about it. And like I said, with those incidents, those possible incidents, they're wobblers. They're designed to make you think about it now, but you could argue one way or another, yes or no, it is an incident or it's not an incident. But that's the point, to make you think. Now, going over the forms, here are the 8 forms. I say 8 because it's forms 1 through 8. But really, if you think about it, Form 0, a blank sheet of paper. If you don't have the forms printed out, you don't have them with you, but you have blank or maybe lined, and you have a notebook, lined sheets of paper, you can do everything you can do Forms 1 through 8 on a blank sheet of paper. Write it out, document it. The point of the forms is to simplify and give you hints so that you know what to document without having to think about it. If you're all you have is a blank sheet of paper, do the best you can do. Document what you can, and maybe you can transfer it to the actual forms later if you need to. But I would argue the best thing that you can do is have some blank paper in your bag. If you don't have the forms, or even if you do have the forms, have all the forms. Have some blank paper because you can do anything with it. If you need to leave a note for someone, or you need to map out something, draw down something, blank sheet of paper. It's CERT form 0. Um, Now, in terms of the forms, real quickly, CERT form 1 is a damage assessment, and this is often completed when you're walking from your home to the staging area. You're filling out this damage assessment form, or you fill it out when you get to the staging area and you get access to the form as you're seeing things and reporting it in. Form 2, when you get to the staging area, you're going to start checking people in. If you're the first person at the staging area, you check yourself in first. People always forget to do that. They forget to check themselves in. Um, Form 3 is team assignments. Generally, this is going to get completed at the staging area. CERT Form 4 is a briefing assignment, again, completed at the staging area. CERT Form 5, survivor treatment area tracking. This is going to be completed at the treatment area. And you're tracking the people who are at the treatment area. It makes kind of makes sense. CERT Form 6, communications log. Love this form. This is used everywhere. Um, it's the next greatest thing to a blank sheet of paper. 'Cause you can put anything on here. Document everything on here, and then you can go back to it later. But certainly if you're sending communications, Alpha team called staging at this time, reported this in at this location. Anything can be put on there. Form 7, CERT Form 7 is equipment inventory. If you have equipment that you're going to be handing out, you want to track it, you want to get it back, know who you issued the equipment to. That's what Form 7 is for. And then CERT Form 8 is basically it's a general message. If you're more advanced in radio and you are sending information word for word, it's called copying, and you're documenting what comes back, you can put a great deal of exactness to your messages on CERT Form 8. Um, a lot of times it's a little overkill for what you're going to be doing. But if you have a full blown out team and you have professional radio operators, they're probably going to be using CERT Form 8. And here's a copy of CERT Form 0 for all of you who don't know what a blank sheet of paper looks like. Again, you can do anything with it. It is multi-purpose. CERT Form 1, this is the damage assessment form. For those of you who don't know what the CERT forms look like, I don't know. Hey Jose, do you remember, do they actually go over the CERT forms in the LAFD CERT classes?
No,
Yeah.
they do
These
not.
are
No, they don't.
yeah, these are in the book, but we don't get the books anymore.
Nope.
So they're available. They're out there. But
Well, actually, they're on the CERT website, LAFD's work. I was just looking at them today.
oh, the CERT-LA site. Okay.
Yeah.
CERT-LA.com has them.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, pretty generic. Um, can be useful. Um, I like CERT Form 4 better than CERT Form 1. If you look at it, it's similar. The size up report from response team is identical. You have observations versus objectives. Um, I think that a lot of times if you try and use the CERT forms 1 through 8 and find a purpose for each one and go out of your way to make sure that you use every single form, um, it's a lot. It's a lot to do and requires a lot of energy and overthinking. And I don't think it's a great. I'm not a fan of CERT Form 1. Maybe as your teams walk up and they're coming from their home to the staging area and they're documenting, it's a good use for CERT Form 1. Beyond that, I would prefer to use CERT Form 4 because an incident that you're going to send people to is the briefing assignment for that team that's going to go out. So everything that you would have documented on CERT Form 1 should be going on CERT Form 4 to then be reported. So why use CERT Form 1 at all? Just start CERT Form 4, expecting that you're going to send a team out. Now, I think this needs to be customized, and so we've customized it. This is the back and front of the standard CERT Form 4. So you've got the instructions to team, you've got a team action log. Um, s- we've customized it to be a little more everything, but changed some of the language. Now, if you look at the two differences, the two forms, they are very similar. We've just changed some of the wording and added a couple extra things to make it more useful. You can certainly do everything you need on the original CERT Form 4 that we do on the customized form, but I think the customized form is going to be better suited for our purposes. And let's talk about those differences here. So we've added in, this is a lot of the change has been in that top section here. The incident number. If you don't have an incident number yet, um, but you might get one, this is where you're going to write it. Team reporting it. And this is mostly for the staging area. So a team calls in from the field. They've got an incident, and you want to know what team reported it, what time it was reported. You're going to want to know what incident number you've assigned it, and then which incident response team is going to go deal with it. And for the documentation purposes, you also want to know what time they completed it, closed out the incident, and what they did. And so again, we go back and we look at instructions of the team. Instead, we've changed that to report from damage assessment team. So on the front page is your report from the damage assessment team. What's the address? Um, what was reported in by the team, the size up. Um, we left objectives just because that's the original wording there. Any equipment allocated. We've shrunk that section so you have more in the size up, and then you're probably not going to have much equipment allocated, but it's still there. Size up from the report from response team is now size up from damage assessment team. And then on the back is report from the incident response team, what they're going to be doing. So team calls in, Alpha team calls in, and they called in at we use 24-hour time, so 09:05. Um, the staging area that you're at, this is documentation when this goes back. Again, going back to the macro, you're working with the fire department or a larger group of certs. You have multiple staging areas, so you want to know what documentation came from where, what the date is, and the address. This is Alpha Team reports in at 09:05. The address is Valley Heart and Guern, and you're probably going to have actual street numbers there. But I would argue that the closest intersection is as valuable as the actual street number. Because if you don't know the area, you're not going to know 1523 Gruen Street from anywhere else on Gruen Street. But if you know 1543 Gruen Street and Valley Heart, okay, now I can find the closest intersection of Valley Heart and Gruen, somewhere around there. Report is a two-story house, building shifted on foundation. Notice everything is capitalized here. We capitalize our reporting to make it easier to read and cleaner. If you're taking the time to do upper and lowercase, it gets a little messy sometimes, but it's easier to read all capital letters. Also, is that an L or an I? Or a one? Um, Building is shifted on foundation. Porch overhang has collapsed, blocking the front door. Woman inside calling for help. Trapped in living room under entertainment center, visible from front win visible from front through window. So if you look through the window from the front, you can see the woman trapped under the entertainment center. You notice how this is bullet points. These are the relevant pieces of information. Very likely, unless you have a really good radio operator calling this in, you're going to get a lot more useless information than you have. Um, but when you report this to the incident response team that's going to go deal with this is the relevant information they need. They need the address. They need to know what it is that they're dealing with. They're dealing with a two-story house that's shifted on its foundation. It's relevant that the porch overhang has collapsed and is blocking the front door. They don't know. Obviously, there's no information about side or rear doors. Maybe the team didn't go look. Maybe they, you know, didn't call it in. Maybe that information was not given. There's a woman inside calling for help. Obviously, maybe something we can do about this. She's trapped in the living room under the entertainment center. We have a team of 7 people. They can definitely go do something about this. Is it safe to enter the building? That that's questionable. Building is shifted on the foundation. Certainly send a team to go investigate. Determine, is this building safe to enter? Maybe not. Um, but at least you can talk to her, tell her that you're calling the fire department, and hopefully help will be on the way. I'm sorry. We called the fire department and they're sending help. You don't need to be more specific than that. You don't know when help is coming. If you've let the fire department know, hopefully help will get there sooner than later. Now let's look at another example of what the briefing assignment looks like when it's completed at the end. Incident response team has gone out and dealt with it. So the first part of the briefing assignment is the damage assessment team. Charlie reported this in. They reported at 9:55. You've assigned incident number 9 to this. You're assigning Team Foxtrot. It's Vantage and Kentura is the address. Incident response team assigned at 10:05, and the damage assessment team reported that a car went into house. Um, Let me take a quick sidetrack on terminology here. Um, when I took the CERT training, we talked about victims. CERT training in its latest revision talks about survivors. A survivor is someone who needs help. A victim is a victim of an incident and may not need help. We deal with survivors. We want a survivor to survive. So S1, the previous example was V1 and V2. And in our last drill, they got reported in as Vehicle 1 and Vehicle 2. So S1, S2, Survivor 1, Survivor 2. And that's why I try and make a strong effort to always talk about survivors and not victims. But you may catch me reverting back and referring to victims. Survivor 1, 70-year-old male driver, chest pain, dizzy. Survivor 2, 25-year-old or 20-year-old female resident, arm open fracture. We used caution tape, or the damage assessment team used caution tape to put up around the car, I'm guessing. You can see the size up of from the damage assessment, 1 damaged structure, 2 injured. On the back, now that you've assigned Foxtrot to go out there at 10:05, they've reported in, and I've added a couple things on here based on our last drill. We added a place to put because this should be double-sided. So it's the same form, just this is the back of it. Put the incident number there and the IRT, incident response team that's been assigned so that you don't have to keep flipping over to see what the incident, which if you have multiple of these out, you have multiple active incidents. You don't need to keep flipping this over to see what incident and what team is calling in. So this is where they start calling in and you're documenting, timestamping each action. At 10:15, Foxtrot arrived on scene. They reported at 10:17, Survivor 1, 67-year-old male. You notice that they got a little more specific information there. When you have a damage assessment, you're taking quick assessments. It's roughly a 70-year-old, roughly a 20-year-old. But they clearly have talked to the person and verified it as a 67-year-old male. Immediate, meaning that they've been triaged immediate or red tagged. They need to go to the hospital within the next 60 minutes or they will die. Immediate, disorientated, rapid breathing. And they were able to get this person transported to the ER by a neighbor. Cool. They call in about survivor number 2 at 10:20. Survivor number 2, 22-year-old female, immediate. Again, needs to go to the hospital in the next 60 minutes or may die. And they marked Y, 5-second capillary refill. Or they reported Y. Open fracture, bandaged. So they did something. And again, transported the ER by neighbor. And at 10:35, Foxtrot became available from the scene. And so on the back, time closed, 10:35, and Foxtrot got a new assignment to go do something else with their time and energy and resources. And at the bottom, you put your name, whoever scribed this, documented this. So if there's any questions, they can go back to Samantha Fields and ask the questions. But this is what the completed form, our customized version of the Form 4 looks like. Now, there should be 3 copies of this form. One is the damage assessment team that called it in. They can document here, call it in, and this should look very similar to what staging has when you look at the paperwork at the end. And the incident response team should fill out the front of this when they get briefed over the radio. Foxtrot from staging, we're sending you to incident number 9. It's going to be at Vantage and Cantura. You have a car into house. Survivor 1, 70-year-old male driver. Chest pain, dizzy. Survivor 2, 20-year-old female resident. Arm open fracture. Caution tape has been put up. They document it. The incident response team documents this. And then when they get there, They start working on the back. 10:15, Foxtrot arrived on scene. Um, they deal with survivor number one. In 2 minutes, they manage to get a neighbor to agree to take this person to the hospital, and they call it in. 10:17, survivor one, 67-year-old male. Again, all this information time-stamped. When all three documents come back, the damage assessment form and the staging form should look identical on the front. Incident response team should also have a very similar looking version of the front page. Damage assessment, not going to have page two, but staging's version of this and the incident response team's version are going to look very similar. If there is discrepancy, this is not something that happens immediately, but before everything is done, said and done, you want to find out why there's discrepancy here. Um, we live in a litigious society. Someone decides that they don't like the outcome of something and they decide to sue. Well, you're going to go back to the documentation. And if you have good documentation, it's going to make it that much better for everybody involved. If you have bad documentation, there's discrepancies. Your forms filled out by the incident response team and by staging are two different things entirely. That's not good. I'll just leave it at that. Now, I mentioned I don't like the current Form 1, CERT Form 1, the damage assessment form. I think CERT Form 4 is much better. This is a form that I found, and you see that I think there's credit given. I don't know. I found this online. I like this for staging to have a quick reference to all the active incidents that are happening. This is the rapid needs assessment form. Um, and it's a 10 sheeter or 10 lines. Each line is an incident number. You don't have to think about it. Incident one, incident two, incident three. Next page, put a two. I'm sorry, put a one in front. Second page, put a two. So page two is going to be 11 through 20. Third page is going to be 20 to I can't do math right now, but you kind of get the picture. And I don't have an example of this filled out. I do have an example filled out on our website that I'll give later on, and you can check out the an example of this filled out. But you can put the hazards on here, relevant information, the address. This allows the staging area to look at all the incidents that are going on that have been reported in and quickly say, okay, where do we need to send our people? Where can our people do the greatest number of good and for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount, the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time? And I have, instead of going through 10 Form 4s to figure out where I'm sending my next team, I have got this all in one place. This is where the incident number comes from. Don't start writing incident numbers, making them up. You need um, one document that is the authority on what the incident number is. Worst case scenario, you have two incident number threes and you confuse everybody. Now, when you sign in, um, oh, I apologize. I hate the CERT Form 2, the generic CERT Form 2 that I actually left it off this slide deck. For those of you who've seen it, the CERT Form 2, the personnel resources, asks you to mark what you want to do. Do you want to do fire suppression? Do you want to do medical or do you want to do radio? And for those of you who've been to my drills, have heard me say over and over again, I don't care what you want to do. I care what you're good at. So I want you to rate yourself from 1 to 5 on how are you at radio comms? How are you at medical? How are you at scribing? How are you at search and rescue? And how are you at leadership? And do you have any other skills or special equipment? This is a form that I found. It's an older version of the Form 2. I think it's much better. We've done some customization to it. We almost sent out a team that had no CERT trained people on it because everybody can come to our drills. And if you are either starting to take the class or you are interested in taking the class and you're dragged along by your neighbor, we need to know if you're CERT trained. The CERT, the team leader needs to be CERT trained. That's an absolute must. So this should be yes or no. Most of the time it ends up being a check mark, but whatever. Um, I've added in now the rankings because people don't know how to rank themselves. So I say a 1 is you've heard about it, and a 5 is you can teach it. For medical at the bottom is the cheat sheet. A EMT, paramedic, whatever, someone with advanced medical training of at least EMT is a 5. Emergency medical responder is a 4. Someone with current first aid CPR AED card is a 3. Someone who's let their card expire is a 2. CERT trained person, you graduated the class, you're a 1. No, and then you write no if you have no training or no understanding of that skill. Um, this should be filled out by one person, one scribe. Don't hand this form around because you're going to get back garbage. You're going to get back things you can't read. You're going to get people who have skipped lines and makes it complicated, people who don't know how to rate themselves. So one person should fill this out. Every single drill, this form gets passed out and not one person filling it out. You can only do so much. Again, should be filled out by the scribe, not by or the staging manager, and not just handed out so you get people whose handwriting you can't read. CERT Form 3. We've customized this again. Um, we say that teams should be odd number teams. Every team should have a team leader, a radio operator, and a scribe. And then you have um, hands-on responder pairs. So we've clearly marked out that this is number 1 is the team leader's name, and then number 2 and number 3 are the radio operator and scribe. And then is this going to be a damage assessment or an incident response team? And the objectives are, this is again, we took the original form and we've modified it slightly. I want to say that we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're not taking a form and completely changing it so it's unrecognizable. We've left some of the stuff on there that I think is useless, but when you get this form, it should look very similar to the forms that you've hopefully been trained on, or possibly not. Also, for some reason, even though I say all teams need to be odd number, 3, 5, or 7, and I say this every single drill, we keep ending up with teams of 4, 6, or 8. I don't think people can count. Going back to the CERT forms, you can see the ones that we've customized, forms 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've eliminated Form 8. I don't think it's useful. If you have a great communication team, ham radio operators who love to write down messages verbatim, cool. You can use Form 8. I think Form 6, the comms log, is perfect for almost every situation. Now let's talk about how these forms are actually used. Let's talk about the incident flow. So you have a incident that is discovered by a damages assessment team in the field. Damage assessment team leader is going to say, this seems like an incident. We better report it. Radio operator or the scribe is going to start filling out Form 4. And then the radio operator is going to call it in. And based on the information on Form 4, calls staging from Alpha Team, reporting an incident at the corner of walk and don't walk, trip and fall, etc., etc. Staging radio operator communicator answers the call. Um, Either they or their scribe starts documenting on Form 6. Form 6, I think, is actually the most important form out of all the forms because if everything is in the comms log, you can always go back to it. I would prioritize Form 6 over every other form out there. If you have nothing but a comms log and you have everything documented accurately in that comms log, you can always go back to it later. And then as you start hearing this call come in, you realize that this is an incident and that we better start filling out Form 4 um, and then go get an incident number. Talk to the staging manager, talk to whoever's in charge of assigning the incident numbers, and say, we have an incident coming in from Alpha Team. This is what they're reporting. There's agreement. Yes, this is definitely an incident. Let's add this address to the rapid needs assessment form, and there we're going to get the incident number. It's going to be incident number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Sequential. There's no need to make up random numbers or make anything fancy here. Your incidents just 1 through whenever you're done. And then go back and say, okay, update on Form 4, the incident number, report back to the team reporting it in that they haven't the incident number that they reported. And then if you're the staging manager or you're in charge at staging, as calls start coming in and incidents start getting reported, you're looking at the map. You're looking at your rapid needs assessment, and you know the teams that are in the field. I've got 2 damage assessment teams and an incident response team out there. There's 5 people on the incident response team. They've got an EMT with them and a couple guys that look like they go to the gym every day. Cool. They can deal with a lot. Stuff they can't deal with, but that's where the resource management comes from. Are you going to send a team that's um, very new, very inexperienced to something that you know they can't handle? I would hope not. But you're going to do what you have to do, and maybe this team's going to figure it out. But if you have a more experienced team that has more capability, has better training, has more certifications, you're going to prioritize them going to the more difficult incidents, the ones where they can do more good, more injuries, more survivors that are trapped. They need a more capable team than maybe a team that is going to go check on that help sign. So at that point, as you have incident response teams that are available, you're going to start assigning them. I'm going to have Echo Team go to incident number 5. And I'm going to have Foxtrot go to incident number 1. It's not necessarily going to be sequential. It's where do I need to send the team to do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. It does not make sense necessarily to send a team all the way across the map. It's going to take them 30 minutes of walking to get to the other side to deal with something minor. Are there instances closer to that team that they can deal with? Maybe something minor. It's a help sign on the way to a bigger incident. All right, while you're on the way, check out incident number 6, that help sign, see what's going on there. Don't spend too much time. We have another incident that we want to send you to after that. Maybe they get to incident number 6 and it is something big. At least you checked in on it and you have a team there that can deal with it. and then send them on to the next incident that you really wanted to send them to. The staging radio operator calls the incident response teams in the field, um, and briefs them from that Form 4. That information should be readable. That communicator can just read off the bullet points off the Form 4, and the incident response team scribe is going to start documenting their own version of the Form 4 based on their briefing. Incident response team is going to probably walk, maybe drive, depends on how the roads are, what vehicles you have. They're going to go to the incident location, and when they get there, they're going to report to staging that they've arrived. We get this all the time where the team forgets to call us and tell us at staging, hey, this is Echo Team. We've arrived at incident number 6. We haven't heard from Echo Team for 30 minutes. Somebody call them and find out where they're at. Oh yeah, we're clearing up incident number 6 right now. Thanks for letting us know that you arrived. Um, we just dealt with that exact same situation. They forgot to tell us at the last drill. Um, it's important that the incident response team confirm the details when they get there. We don't just care that you arrived. We want to confirm that everything is as explained. If you're describing something completely different than what the damage assessment team briefed us on, why? Why is it different? Are you at the wrong incident? Did you find another incident? Are you at the wrong address entirely? Or you walk, yeah, and we've had it where teams have walked the wrong direction because they apparently don't know north and south. But confirm the details, confirm the address. Staging from Echo Team, we've arrived at incident number 6, confirming address is 12345 Don't Walk Street. We have one help sign up on the front window. We're going to go investigate. There appears to be no damage or signs of distress. We'll call you back with more information. Deal with it. Your radio operator should be communicating with staging as soon as they have information or things to share. And the goal of the incident response team is to bring the incident to a conclusion. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes an incident will have to remain open because they don't have the resources to do it. Yeah, we got here, there's someone trapped in the vehicle. We tried to get them out. They are still stable, but we cannot extricate them from the vehicle. We do need professional responders to deal with this. Okay, this incident stays open. Try and get professionals to go out there and deal with it, but you can't close an incident if you didn't bring it to a conclusion. And the conclusion isn't we left someone there because we couldn't help them. Once that incident response team has said they've closed out the incident, they're then going to request a new assignment and get redispatched to another assignment. So the incident flows, incident is discovered by a damage assessment team. The Form 4 is written up, called into staging, reported incident is assigned an incident number. Form 4 is filled out here at staging. And then when the incident response team is dispatched, they're dispatched based on the information on the Form 4 at staging. They go to incident number 1, they report back the details of the closeout and ask for a new assignment. At which point staging says, okay, you're closest to this one, or we really need you to go to this one. If you would like to see our customized forms, we also have examples of what the forms look like filled out or pre-filled out. You can go to the website forms.certvolunteer.org and you can see a copy of all of our customized versions of the forms, as well as the original CERT forms as well. For those of you in the LA area, and those of you who are CERT trained, we do have a refresher. The CERT unit from the fire department has done set up the first refresher of the year, I believe, of the last 2 years. It's going to be at Fire Station 88 in the Valley in Sherman Oaks. You do need to register online. I don't know if there's any more spots available. I would, if anybody questions why are you here and you didn't sign up, don't tell them I told you, but I would still go if the spots are full. Certainly sign up, see if there's a wait list. But usually people wake up Sunday morning, realize that they have to be there at 7 a.m. and go, nope, turn around, fall back asleep. I'm sure my girlfriend would argue that that is the correct course of action. Um, but usually we don't have a capacity issue or overcapacity issue at these refreshers or trainings. But definitely go to cert-la.com/eventbrite and you'll see the upcoming trainings as well as the refresher there and sign up for more information. So, any questions? My email address is here, lafdcertcentral@gmail.com. I just gave you a lot of information. Um, this will be up on our YouTube channel for review. If you go to YouTube, search for LAFD CERT coordinators, you'll find us, and you can go to the live section and rewatch this. But again, go check out forms.certvolunteer.org and look at the customized and the examples that we've done. These forms are being updated. I just updated the Form 4 with the incident number and team on the back. So as we do these drills, we definitely figure out how to make these forms better. Any questions? Again, I just gave you basically a fire hose of information. So I don't expect you to be experts at this. I tried to give the rationale for why we've customized the forms. And like I said, if you just have blank paper, that is going to be better than nothing. Notebook, line sheets of paper, better than nothing. You have the actual cert forms, figuring out how to use them. Good luck. Um, there's a reason why I had to customize them. But you should know both the original and the customized version if you want to use the customized version, because you don't know what you're going to end up with. You go to the refresher, it's going to be if they provide you with the cert forms, and that's a big if, they're going to be the standard forms. But you come to our drills that we as the volunteers and coordinators run, we're going to provide you with the customized forms. But you bring your own forms, either way. The idea of the form is not you have to fill this out exactly right. The idea of the form is how do I write down relevant information so it can be used later? Karen.
Hi, Patrick. Maybe I misheard you, but when you were talking about numbering the incidents
Mhm.
and with multiple pages, were you saying that it should be like page 1, incident 1 through those 10, and then page 2, incident 1? Or did I not get what you were saying at all?
So the numbers on the rapid assessment form are 1 through 10.
Okay.
So as you go to the next page and go to incident number 11, you simply write a 1 in front of all those incident numbers. 1 through 10 becomes 11 through, well, 20. Um, Not 11 through 10.
Oh, okay. All
And
right. I
then
thought you
the
were talking about page, like number of pages that you have to all this, but okay.
Mhm.
Never mind. Thank you.
Someone else had their hand up. Did you have the same question? My email address again is lafdcertcentral@gmail.com. And the site is forms.certvolunteer.org. And that's the only place you're going to find our customized forms. If you go to the cert-la.com site, you're going to find the FEMA forms. Again, we tried not to reinvent the wheel here. It's simply taking those existing forms and making them a little more useful. Hopefully, if you look at the FEMA form and you look at ours, you'll see the very similar the minor changes we've made to make them more useful. And feel free to mock up, change the FEMA forms however you want to use them. Again, it's not, this is how it needs to be done. This is a lot of how can we make this better? And if you find that the FEMA forms work perfectly fine for you, cool. I'd love to see how you document things. Um, I think that everything needs to be customized to make things better and learn from, use them, do a drill, see how the forms work. Can you make changes to the forms to make them a little more useful, or are they perfectly fine? We didn't change every form. The comms log form, the form 6 is great. You don't need to change that. But hopefully you find this information useful. Um, if you have suggestions for the customizations that we've done, anything you'd like to see, anything that you think, hey, every time we've done a drill, we really wish this information was on the form, and we have to keep writing it in on the side, let me know. Um, I want to make these forms improve every single time. Any other questions? There's a lot of stuff in the chat here that I didn't get a chance to review. Jose, was there anything in the chat that was interesting or any questions that still need to be answered? Oh, Jose's gone. Cool. I guess that answers that question. All right. Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to email me. Hopefully I will see you on the this Sunday, bright and early, unless I'm convinced to not go. Um, Questions about recording the radio chat. Sure. If you want to record the radio chat and you have the capability to do so, um, for your own record and going back, whatever you find useful, but don't rely on that as your reference because if you're listening to your recording and there's live comms coming in, then you might miss it. So just be careful about that.
It would only also work only if you have only one radio operator as a staging area. It gets complicated if you would have, for example, two different radio operators at the staging area.
Yeah, it can be definitely difficult. And there's pros and cons to having multiple radio operators. They can definitely switch in and out. So you can have one radio operator and their scribe close out the incident together, while another radio operator is taking the new calls coming in. Um, Whatever works. And in terms of the scribes also, um, oh, let me say this actually, because this always comes up as well. A lot of the documentation can be done after the fact. You need to prioritize doing something that over the documentation. The documentation is important, and having accurate documentation is critical for the big picture. But if you're the team in the field, don't prioritize documenting over saving someone's life. If someone needs, they're bleeding out and you can do something to stop the bleeding, your scribe should not be standing around trying to document before the bleeding is stopped. Focus on saving lives, document later, but get the documentation done if you are part of a larger team. If there's three of you and that's all you're doing is walking, survivor to survivor, and you're exhausted, do what you can do with the resources you have. It's not going to be a great time for anybody, but just do what you can. Do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. If there's no other questions, thank you all for attending. We do this every third Wednesday of the month, and we'll hope to see you back next month. Have a good night, everyone. John, you have a question? LAFD does not give out the books anymore. They used to, but I think some of the instructors may have the participant manuals on USB. So if you want to bring a laptop with you and get them, I believe if you look at the Eventbrite, they do have a link for the participant manual, so you can download it ahead of time. But they no longer have a physical book that they hand out.
Okay. I was just asking because I have a program at a high school. We have um full classroom of students, 30 students, and
Hmm.
I emailed FEMA asking if they have any, if they could send um enough for a classroom, and they said no. So, but I'll see if I could print them out. They're quite
Yeah.
lengthy.
Um, that's things are getting difficult out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well,
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome.